Well, let's talk about the setting for the play. You come from Georgia, and you've moved out here permanently. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, I moved about 2 years ago.
Well, talk about growing up in Georgia. I mean, it's obviously something that made you want to set this in Georgia in an area that you knew, and then maybe talk about moving out here.
Yep, absolutely. Well, the very first play that I ever wrote was a play based in the South and about a bunch of women in a Winnebago traveling up and down the South. So that was kind of my first foray into theater, which I needed to put it in a place that I knew well, which is my home in Georgia. Now, and then many plays in between. I write a lot of plays about science and about history and about women throughout the ages, and dramas and comedies and musicals and everything in between. But I always have kind of come back to the South as a place to write some moving contemporary issue-based but kind of comedically inspired works. Just how to figure out the world around me now, and that language and the history. And the people in the South seem to be my kind of natural home and my natural voice. So it was easy to come back. In between Atlanta and the Bay Area, I went to grad school in New York City. So going to New York, you feel very exotic being from the South. It's very, very new and different. So I would take my twang out, and boy, people would buy me drinks. So it was easy to kind of, in that funny way, when you leave your home, you really reconnect with it and understand it in a whole new way. So I think that gave me the muscle to go back to the South and find out the stories it needed telling. So when I got back out here, it was even easier because this community is so wonderful for new plays and for playwrights, and it really is a strikingly good area to get work done. So I was in the combination of coming from New York and loving my home in the South and missing it, and then being here where people are helping you get new work done meant that I could write this bizarre little play.
Did it, as an actor, intimidate you having to put on a Georgia accent in front of a Georgia playwright?
No, not at all. I'm actually from the South. Like, I have a lot of family there from Louisiana, so it was a little bit more comfortable. I've heard the twang a lot, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know that one.
And
Reggie knew what was up.
It's really awkward because, like, after the rehearsals, like, I'd still be in the accent, and I'd call my mom, and I'd be like, hey, Mama, how you doing? She's like, Mama? Is this, who is this? Sorry, I was in Simon mode. I'll be back. But no, it's been really easy and really fun. When I read the play, and I was like, oh, exit pursued by a bear. Like, this is in San Francisco. Wait, what kind of bear is she talking about? So I had to, like, read and be like, oh, like the animals, not the people on Folsom. Okay,
no, not the Castro.
I don't want to disappoint anybody out there.
True, we got to be clear about
we
that.
have to be very clear. But no,
But you do get to wear a cheerleader outfit. So.
I do. It's for all. This is the play for all. It is.
Exactly. But it was actually great because there's a couple of folks in the cast who are from the South or have experience there. So we actually felt we created a lovely little crazy Southern family right away in the cast, I think.
Although it's a Southern expatriate family.
That's exactly
right. Which
right.
might mean something else.
True.
Yes.
True. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is there a love-hate relationship with the South? I mean, the South, at least sort of in kind of in the stereotype of the South, you do have, the abusive husband does seem to be sort of a Southern cliche. You have, and so how much of that did you see or hear about growing up in the South? I mean, what?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I grew up in a town called Decatur, which is just outside of Atlanta, which is a shockingly liberal corner of a very, very red state. So I didn't really understand those stereotypes of Southern culture until you go an hour outside of Atlanta, and it's real obvious real quick. So I kind of had the best of both. I mean, I had my Southern culture and your Southern food and Southern stories, but I wasn't surrounded by a lot of those stereotypical things, misogyny and racism and violence and, all that kind of stuff that's kind of the worst of the Southern stereotypes. But those are real in some places. And so I think the job of the artist is to tackle those stereotypes and maybe reappropriate them, or certainly to make theater interesting. We're not going to give you exactly what you expect. We're going to give it to you and then twist it around and then turn it around. So I think that's part of what Bear does is, we think we're dealing with kind of a meek, small-minded, troupe of Southern crazy people, but they actually have big dreams and they get it done and they change the world. Yeah. So that's really kind of...
And they know about art.
They know about art and Shakespeare Shakespeare,
Yeah.
and they can quote Jimmy Carter at a drop of a hat. So they have some ammunition as well.
And some layers.
Some layers, exactly. But it is interesting. I mean, one of the things we realized, play has been on a rolling world premiere. So the first production was in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm from, and worked with a wonderful company, Synchronicity, there. Before the second premiere, which I know that sounds oxymoronic, but it is. The second premiere is out here, and we've done a lot of work on it. But the first production, Simon's part was played by a Caucasian guy, and then out here with Reggie, who's African American, it did bring up some other issues of what it would be like for that same character, same words, same world, but it's kind of upped the ante a little bit. So this play can kind of grow and change as we go from city to city and cast to cast.
Talk about the rolling premiere. I mean, talk about the idea of a rolling premiere.
Yeah, no, well, the idea is genius, which is plays need to be on stage to grow. Readings and how the play lives and works on the page is very different than when you have incredible cast and the community and the collaboration around an actual production. So the rolling premiere concept is that you have three committed companies, at least three committed companies, that the play rolls from this production here. A couple months it's here, and the next month it'll be there. And you have readings and development, which we've had 4 or 5 readings all over the country. And we're going to have a reading in New York in October and another production in Chicago. So it's kind of, the rolling premiere gives me as the playwright a chance to work with the play, to have the play become its most mature, strongest, most badass self, which you can only do through actual experience. But it also gives these companies a chance to be a part of something national, as opposed to just regional and local. And you really get to see your work in other places. So Atlanta's work is here, and Crowded Fire's work will be in Seattle and Chicago and New York. And, it really does create a national community around the conversation of a play, as opposed to just, one shot off somewhere
Right.
and it doesn't go anywhere. So that's really...
It gives it some nice momentum, too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And the Crowded Fire version of this play is subtly different from the Atlanta version of the play.
It is, yes. People who would have seen it there, which is my mom, will see some new things here. And, it's not just the text. I mean, it's the interpretation. So Desdemona Chang has done a really incredible job. Crowded Fire's design team is pretty stunning. And they have found new corners of this play that I didn't know were there. And then the actors, too. I mean, they're the heart and soul of it. And so Reggie's work even... things that he would just say in rehearsal, I would go, oh, that's a better line than the one I'd written. I'll switch it out. So some of the lines that y'all will laugh at, most of the funny ones were Reggie's. I can't take credit. But it's true, working and growing with the cast and what they bring means that make me look really good, basically.
She looks good on her own.
Oh, you stop.
We help a little bit.
Oh, you hush.
We help a little bit.
And it also means that even just from a technical standpoint, I know that the deer has been traveling across the continent.
It has. It has.
You get to share a deer carcass from production to production.
We share deer carcass, and that's something. That's what brings people together.
Yes. Shared dead animals.
Shared dead animals. Yeehaw.
So are there things in the play that an Atlanta audience would just naturally get that seem to just kind of whoosh go past a Bay Area audience? I mean, are there Atlanta-isms in this?
Yeah. I mean, I think, absolutely. There's some, and it's mainly places and settings and things like there's certain references to grocery store chains or to highways or parks that Atlanta people would know exactly where that is. But Bay Area folks, you're not going to miss anything. You're just going to go, oh, that must be a park in Atlanta.
It's a park, yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, there's certain little Southern sayings that might be the first time Bay Area people would have heard it. But the great thing about Southern sayings is they're inherently and strangely poetic and true. And it's one of those things that you go, I have never heard that way to describe that, but that makes complete sense. I will now use that.
I'm going to appropriate that.
I'm going to appropriate that.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.